This is what we look like going out to do chores. I have the frozen pulp from my mom's juicing in the feed bucket. I don't leave the feed out there because we have mice in the greenhouse and they get in it and then they poop in it and then they're spreading a disease. So in case you're wondering why we went with such a large greenhouse, it's because I just really wanted to experiment to see if I could create an ecosystem. So I'm putting down a flat base. I don't want the hotbed to be tilting. So I'm making sure that all my mulch in here is even. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to find a way to spread manure over this. Okay, I might put the rabbit cages on top of it on blocks just so that they can pee and poop onto it, because in the backyard I do have rabbit manure, but it is under about a foot of snow. And because it's under a foot of snow, it won't be as powerful, it won't be as fresh. Or, if I'm really desperate, what I'll do is I'll take a bucket of rabbit manure and I'll let it soak. And I'll let it soak, and I'll let it soak. And then I'll pour the sludge from that, 1 bucket full of sludge on each bale. And then I'm ready to lay my second course. And what that'll do is it will start the bacteria eating the carbon here. Now I'm going to get a little bit of water on them. If I start to see that the water is dripping down on the sides, I will stop putting water on it, because what will happen is that water will come down off the sides and it'll start to water the weeds that are underneath the straw, and then you will have weed problems. So I don't want the water to reach, I don't want it dripping down the sides, and I don't want it to thoroughly saturate the bale. So I'm adding the second layer on. I'm going to go ahead and build a simple frame, and the point of the frame is that when I put more rabbit manure on top, it's going to be thicker. Because otherwise, once the roots of the plant start to get down into the straw is going to be just carbon. And it'll starve the plants. They won't have anything to eat. It's sterile. My favorite hardware is elbows, like the metal elbows, because I don't have to have brute force in order to get that nail to go through, and I can use shorter nails, so I'm not snapping them off if I use them incorrectly. Once again, I'm not Wrangler Star. Everything he makes is beautiful, and everything that I make is just good enough. I think that's about as good as it's going to get. Show it to him.
So you can see how much paper and manure there is in here, and so we're gonna put it on the box. Quail fooders. So I'm gonna be putting in some of these seeds, and these little holes Dirtpatcheaven already made. So it's gonna be fun. I think my sister's coming.
As well.
and take pinches and spread them.
He said 40 to 50%.
Come crumple it up over the top.
Okay.
So, can you guys see all my little sprouts? See, this bed is very warm right above. So I'm going to move the tray, watch for the steam. This one was not charged. I have not been watering it with rabbit manure tea at all. I wanted to see what would happen if I put seeds in a cold bed. So there's my seedlings. We'll see how they do. And this one is the hotbed. This is the one that I have been charging with rabbit manure tea, and it has a lot of steam coming. Can you see the steam? I'm going to be so sad if you can't see the steam. So this is what happened last time too. Mushrooms. Except last time it smelled like dog poop, and we didn't have dog poop in this. We didn't have a dog at the time. And this time it doesn't smell like dog poop. But we also don't have chicken manure or goat manure in here. It's all just strictly rabbit manure, cardboard, straw, that kind of thing. As I continue to charge this, I will always use rabbit manure tea. It just, even though I have the manure here on top that kind of filters down a little bit, it does need to have the actual fertilized water going into it in order to keep things warming up. Things are just breaking down really good over here. And on this side, there's none of that. Nothing's breaking down. There's no warmth. It's not warm to the touch. Over here, it's warm to the touch. It's starting to break down and turn into soil. The problem here is that this side is going to start sinking before that side does. So we might get a little bit unbalanced eventually. We're super happy that we don't have clouds of ammonia in here. I don't like it when there's the clouds of ammonia. It hurts the plants and it hurts the animals that are in here at the same time. Now, last time I did a hotbed, my radishes were not happy. They came up and instantly died. It was just too warm for them. They didn't like it. I think that's what's going to happen again, but we'll try. Okay, so now I'm going to put a little bit more peat moss over the top of them because they seem to do better if I just sprinkle a little bit of something on them rather than packing them in. I'm also going to put some fertilizer in, some long-lasting dissolving fertilizer. I am using rabbit manure tea, but I don't really know how strong it is because the manure itself is a little bit older. So I'm just going to hedge my bets a little bit by putting on some of this fertilizer. Where I have spaces and holes, I just came in and re-sowed those. So some of them could have just been slow germination, but I had mice in here and there's a good likelihood that a lot of them just got eaten. So I came in and put more tatsoi, Swiss chard, and what else did I put in here? And then peas in this space. And then over here, I think I'm going to put onions in here, but I need a little bit more planting medium because this is mostly rabbit manure. And so in here you can see I've got all sorts of fun things coming up. I heavily seeded this just with broadcast seeding. I don't like it as well because it's harder to water without disturbing roots, but they seem to be just fine. Fluctuation between being about 100 degrees during the day in here and then just below freezing at night is a little hard on them. So we're going to come in and set up some of these. These are just, I think they were 10 or 15 gauge wire. We bought it in a roll and I just cut it to length. And I use these to hold plastic and frost cloth off the vegetables. I use these outside as well. Okay, so that's what it would look like. Again, it's better with one big piece because with one big piece it drapes in a long piece and you don't end up with these sagging bits in between. the sagging bits are going to touch the plants, and then it can bend the plants in and they won't grow as well. So if I have a really hot hotbed, I don't put this on. There's no point. The hotbed's hot. It'll keep things from freezing. But once the hotbed cools down a little bit, this works well at night. And warm. Then I'm going to come over here and start charging this one. But for now, I'm just going to let it sit. I'm going to let it sit because I want it to be my backup heater for the greenhouse. And if I start it up right now, it can't be a backup heater. It will be a heater at the same time. And then I won't have more space to bring another one in. And you can see I have the other hotbed all built up and ready to go. I have a lot of wood in there, so we're trying wood chips, hugelkultur, and rabbit manure. I don't know how that's going to go. You can see that the frost on this side is starting to melt. The frost on this side is still quite solid. This one, I watered it down the other day, and oh my gosh, all the mushrooms came out to play. I did have my tray of tomatoes out here, and they were doing just fine because of the bottom heat from the bed, and then I put a blanket over the top. But the mice came up in the night and ate the seeds from the tomatoes and my basil. I had basil and peppers and tomatoes in here in a flat, and they were just fine, but the mice came up and got it. And so you can see where the central heat is from the manure and the wood chips, and it's really warm. And that's, I haven't watered it for a couple days, but it's really warm in there. So I think I preferred this method, the wood chips and the rabbit manure, to the straw bales. The straw bales was just a lot easier to set up. It was just so fast and so quick. I'm going to plant it deeply. So it's the second week in April, and this is what I have from the hotbed. And I don't think I would have had as good a result if I had done it just in the greenhouse and not in the hotbed. And I have done this before in a cold frame and had results this early. So if you don't have a greenhouse, use a cold frame, use a hotbed, use a cold frame on a hotbed, that kind of thing. It's all possible, even in a zone 4 where we still have nights that are down in the 20s. They need bottom heat and just protection. Hi, honey. And so this is my third picking just from that small bed, and we have a lot more in there. The radishes look really good. The onions are thinking about it on this side. Over here, the onions are just fine. And then I have the bulb onions in the cold frame in the backyard. It's really nice in here right now. The peas are starting to come on. The bok choy and the tot soy are doing really well. These radishes are not doing as well. I think they're just a little too crowded. I find what I have found, what I find interesting, is that the line, like the row system, doesn't really seem to work very well. I'm gonna give that to them so they can eat some dirt and eat some greens. Because it doesn't matter how thinly I put them in, it always comes out too much. Whereas when I broadcast them like this, I get a really good mix. There's enough room for everything. I can come in and pull out my radishes without disturbing my carrots. And then I also have, these look like kohlrabi. That's what those look like. We've had some really good radishes out of here. Even though it's so hot in here, they're doing fine. I haven't had anything bolt that is spinach and sorrel. And here I have some Swiss chard coming up. Most of these are sugar snap peas. These are shelling peas right here. The big problem we had in the beginning was with the voles that would climb up here, and they didn't eat the plants, they ate the seeds as things started to sprout. And so I had to reseed in here quite a bit. And so, which is again why I really, really liked the broadcast system. We didn't have any problems with anything getting eaten in here. When they were in rows, it was like the predictability of them finding one in a row all the way along just meant they came up and ate it every night in big chunks. Over here, the unpredictable nature of them just meant that they didn't seem to really know where to find them. There's a really pretty one. This is my active hotbed, the one that is still hot. And I planted them. I know these are squash, but you can see the tomato inside too. Up there. So those are from my active hotbed. And these down here were planted at the same time. Not in the active hotbed. These were planted later. This hotbed is slightly warm. The other difference is, so that tomato looks pretty good, and this tomato looks pretty good, but it doesn't look as good as the one that's inside the wall of water too. Again, all planted at the same time. The goats are the most helpful part. They are eternally helpful as they eat our new bushes. Do you need to go out in the back pasture, little one?
They both have it.
Huh? Lots and lots of Swiss chard. And I need to go out and do it again because it's getting thick enough that the smaller ones that are still coming up aren't having enough sunlight. And we've had nights below freezing for the last 3 weeks. Is more Swiss chard. And in here I have kale and spinach